Listening to the Sports Cycle on 105.1 Live. I'm your host, Tim McKain, and we have a very special guest today, Tommy Cuozzi. How you doing today, sir?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Doing well, doing well. So, you're a professional fighter. You're 1-0, but there's a pandemic going on. So, like, as a fighter, what is life like during this pandemic?
Life is day by day. You just have to wait and see what the next day is going to hold. Here lately, we've been able to work a little bit at the gym. The governor kind of allowed 30% opening. So you've been able to do a little bit here and there, meeting up with people when, the gyms were closed, staying 6 feet apart, stuff like that. But, as long as, for a while there, I didn't work out as much as I should have been. I was running, I'd work out 2 or 3 times a week, whereas before I was going 4 to 6 times a week. Still trying to get some in, but, the motivation wasn't there. The gym wasn't open. No one was there to push me as well. I like to push myself, but it's a lot easier with people. But no, we're slowly allowed to open a little bit now. It's a little easier. More people coming in the gym. Still staying under that 30% range, but getting different training partners, and I've been kind of reaching out to cross-train as well.
Oh,
that's always helpful. Just getting new experiences, too, with them, because, you roll with the same people in the same gym all the time. You're going to kind of, all right, well, you're going to pull guard, you're going to go for this sweep, but you go to a new gym, it's a whole new different style of rolling.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you're training right now.
Right.
But what is it like training when you're just regular training or when you're training for a fight?
See, I like that question. A lot of people don't understand the differences between fight camp and regular training. Once you're regular training, you're in a routine. I'm going to train this day. I'm going to do this. You're keeping your cardio up, but you're working a lot of technique as well. Whereas fight camp, you're still working technique, still kind of sharpening your tools, but it's a lot of cardio and it's a lot of mental pushing as well. We've had times where we were going through fight camp. We've had people leave because I started fighting under 18. I had my first fight at 14.
Oh, wow.
Kept going. I think I was about 15 through this fight camp. And the 2 people left, and they were like, well, yeah, that's really harsh. You shouldn't do that to them. But, it's what you sign up for. You have to get that mental aspect of training in there as well as physical in order to get that edge.
So starting out at 14, what led you to start fighting at 14?
Honestly, I started training when I was 8.
Okay.
My sister got into it. She, we were looking for, she's going into middle school, so we wanted some self-defense. And she was like, well, that sounds cool. Let's do it. And so my parents were like, do you want to do it? Mm-hmm. It sounded cool to me. It's fighting. So it's like, sure. I got into it, started training in the kids' class, started moving up through the ranks, started rolling with higher levels, rolling with adults. And I think I was somewhere between 8 and 10. I watched my first fight. My dad fought too. Mm-hmm. But this was before that. I would watch teammates fight just because he trained with them. And I was like, well, this is what I want to do. And as soon as I turned 14, my instructor was like, hey, do you want to fight? And I was kind of dumbfounded at the moment, but I said yeah. My parents were cool with it, so signed everything that we needed to and went into it.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you actually are your parents, they own a gym. What is that? So like you're business minded, right? So how many businesses do you guys have as a family?
As of now, my mom used to run a cake business. Nothing like out of a store or anything, but she'd make tons of cakes a week. I think the most cakes she made at one time, she'd run like Christmas specials and stuff. She made like 35 cakes in a matter of like 2 or 3 days. But other than that, we have the gym. That's really the only business we have right now, but that in itself is worth 5 businesses.
Exactly. I agree. So I want to actually bring this up. So Elias Briley, in one of my interviews with Let's Talk Sports, he actually talked about how like no martial artist can truly master a martial art. Right. So like, was there ever like a certain style that you felt like you perfected, but then you found out that you didn't?
I've never really felt like I've never felt like I've perfected anything. I'm gonna rephrase my statement. you feel like you get better and better. And like I said earlier about the cross training and stuff, you go to a new gym and you roll with somebody who's, the same level as you, but you're not used to the rolling style, and you're like, wow, I have a lot to work on. I like that you can't master anything because I like progress.
Okay.
I don't ever want to be at the very top. There's always going to be someone better.
Okay.
But if you're at the top, you can't see, I'm getting better now. You can't keep track of your progress in comparison to others. You have to see your progress for yourself and say, maybe I can keep up with this person now. Or, I can beat myself a year ago. Something like that. Just always seeing that gradual progress is something that I like to see.
Okay, so interesting. So has there ever been a time where you were in a match and you felt like there was a guy who could have been better than you, and then you had to adjust to win the fight?
Oh, all the time. Fighting is about adjusting to your situation. You can't, they talk about these fighters having styles. Obviously, the most prominent one you see, Conor McGregor, has his own style. You think Conor McGregor, you think his outlandish way of sparring that works. But you have to adjust to your opponent. Every fight you have, you want to train for everything, train for every situation. But at the same time, my opponent's a good wrestler. I have to adjust. I have to adapt to his takedowns. My opponent likes throwing heavy hooks, heavy hands. I need to, avoid those. Stuff like that. You have to train yourself to avoid that. And then same thing kind of mid-match too. I mean, I've been in a fight where I had a game plan. I was fighting Jacob Ashley.
Okay.
My game plan was keep it standing. He was a purple belt. I think I was a blue belt at the time. And I was like, all right, I need to keep this up. He's going to be good on the ground. I need to keep this standing. As soon as I got hit, I was like, well, I got to go to the ground now. And, you just have to adapt like that. I ended up losing that fight because of that decision.
Wow.
Yeah, because, it wasn't a momentary panic, but when he hit, I saw an opportunity, and, I was too stubborn to go against that. But, there's negatives to it as well.
So what do you take from wins and losses? How do you learn and grow from that?
You got to take lessons from each one.
Okay.
You can't be complacent with a win, and you can't be down on yourself about a loss. I've lost 4 times in my career, and each time doesn't feel better than the last. It's a very sucky experience. But from those losses, you capitalize on what you messed up on, what you can fix, and you move forward with that. As opposed to a win, if you win, you can still look back on that fight. Back to earlier, nobody can perfect the art. You look back on your fight and think, all right, I can improve here. I can, adjust this aspect of my game. Where do I want to go next? Stuff like that.
I got you. So Andre Ward, you familiar with Andre Ward?
I don't believe so. No.
Andre Ward is an Olympic boxing champion. He was undefeated for a while.
Right.
He's undefeated. He was undefeated. He's going to be a Hall of Fame boxer. And he trained his whole life as a boxer. But there was a point in his career when he was going to be an Olympic champion, when he was going to be joining the Olympics. But in the back of his mind, he was like, man, I've done this my whole life. I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like, you were just tired of the sport, and like what kept you going? Did you ever have that experience?
Actually, yeah. After, I think it was my first loss. I had went 5 fights without losing. My first loss, again, it was Jacob Ashley. I was perplexed. I didn't know what to do, where to go, and at one point I contemplating. I was like, is fighting even for me anymore? But I talked to some people about it. My mom being one of them. The nerves building up, and it wasn't like a big, I want to stop fighting, but it's just I talked to him about the likes and dislikes of fighting. I talked to my dad about it. I talked to my friends about it. Just what I like about it, what I dislike, and I realized that the likes outweighed the dislikes. I realized that it was that loss that kind of got me in that bad mindset.
Interesting. So what is your why? Why do you fight?
I have a couple reasons. One, obviously, being the thrill of it. On the other end of that, there are the nerves that those don't dissipate. Whether you know you're going to beat your opponent, no doubt, or whether you've got this top opponent, been champion for a while, the nerves are going to be the same either way, no matter what show you're fighting in. That's just my perspective. But it's very thrilling. It's the most exciting thing I believe I've ever done.
Wow.
Each time I've stepped in, I've fought 10 times. Each time more exciting than the last. I like making new friends, meeting new people. I wouldn't have met everybody in here. I wouldn't have met, everybody in Virginia Beach. And then, everybody around me, too. I want to give people someone to look up to. I want to be a role model. And fighting, not just fighting, but my actions through fighting are a good way to do that.
And I can see that, man. Like, on your social media, you're very positive. Where does that positivity come from?
Same thing, just everybody around me, I've got an insane support system. Not just everybody at my gym, which everybody there supports me, win or lose, but, friends, family, even I've got people at the gym that'll, pick on me. If I lose, they'll pick on me a little bit, but it kind of builds me up. But just everybody there sheds a positive light on anything, and it kind of rubs off on me. And so I can spread it a little bit further to other people.
I got you. So, like, at the end of your career, when somebody says who Tommy Cuozzi is, what do you want people to say who Tommy Cuozzi was?
I want them to say that Tommy Cuozzi was a good guy. I want them to say that he was a great fighter. That's a hard question. I want to leave a mark. I want them to say I was somebody who was memorable. Somebody who they can look up to, somebody who they can mimic, somebody they can take something from. Rather than, he was a fighter, he did this, the end. I want them to take something from my life, from my experiences, and maybe use that in their own life.
I got you. All right, my one last question is, do you have a top 5 mixed martial arts all-time list? Who is it?
I've put very little thought into this, but I got to think on this. Honestly, I don't know a top 5.
Top 5?
Yeah,
Top 5 that you watch. Top 5 that you like.
I've watched.
That you like. How about that? Top 5 that you like.
Okay. I'm going to go... My number 1 right now, just because she's mowing through everybody, is Amanda Nunes.
Ooh.
Everybody that gets thrown at her, just mowing through them.
What she did to Chris Cyborg, I was
stunned. Shock. Which she's my second one. Because, again, most people, she gets thrown, she mows through them. And she's super nice. Like, you see Cyborg, you see who she's talking to. I'll never forget, you put hashtags, people are bound to like your pictures. But she liked one of my pictures and, fangirled for a second.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but no, she's a pretty nice person. She's spreading positivity and everything. I really like Cowboy Cerrone, too. His fighting style is cool. He's there to bang, but at the same time, he's there to fight. He's in love with fighting. He's not in love, with the glory of fighting, with the fame of it. He wants to fight, and I like that a lot. Let me think on this. It's a hard one. I like Cody Garbrandt simply because he likes to stand and bang.
He's solid.
I like that a lot. He's not gonna run away from the opponent in front of him. He's there to stay. He's gonna throw with you, whether he gets knocked out or whether he knocks you out. He's gonna stay till the very end.
Okay.
And for my last one, I think I'm gonna have to go with Shevchenko. Just because her style, her stand-up style, it's so straightforward. It's nothing too complex. She's gonna be in your face, but at the same time, you throw a punch, she's over here. She's everywhere. She's, her game is Muay Thai. And I myself, I love Muay Thai. I love Jiu-Jitsu too, but it's cool to see just a straight Muay Thai fighter. Everybody's got a little mix. She has a little mix too, but you see Shevchenko, you know her for Muay Thai.
I got you. You said one of your favorite fighters was Cowboy Cerrone, right? Mm-hmm. Cowboy Cerrone is interesting to me because he's a solid dude. Mm-hmm. He's solid, but it just seems like some of the fans, man, they want a piece, man.
Yeah.
They want to test the waters. I remember there was one time in the Joe Rogan show, and he was talking about there was 2 incidents where one dude just punched him in the face. I think it was at Target or Walmart or something. Mm-hmm. And then he was like at a beach party with his friends, and some drunk guy was jealous. You know what I mean? And he was just trying to fight him, and then he tried to go after his girl, and then Cowboy Cerrone handled that.
Right,
he
right.
handled it.
You
and
got
then
to.
You got to. So, like, as a fighter, have you ever dealt with anything like that? And if you were today, how would you deal with it?
I think, well, hopefully a little better than I did back then. I was young at this point. I might have been like 13 years old, still in like middle school. A friend and I were walking through Walmart, and a bunch of people in the town knew I did MMA and stuff. He came up to us and he was like, "Hey, you're Tommy." And I was like, "Yeah." He said, "You do martial arts?" I was like, "Well, yeah." And his next question was, "You think you could take me?" I'd never met this man. Like, he was maybe a year or two older, so I figured he knew of me, went to the same middle school or something. But I just kind of stood there shocked. I was like, "What? I don't know you. Why, get to meet you?" Luckily, Jazz was there, and he wasn't as dumbfounded as I was, and he was like, "We don't typically do that. Our instructor was, you don't use martial arts unless you need to type person," which I agree with. Even now, don't use it unless you need to. I mean, if the situation arises, obviously you have that opportunity, you have the skill set. But being a martial artist, that also comes with limitations as well.
Okay.
You don't want to, especially at the professional level, with Cowboy Cerrone, word got out with all of that. You don't want to put a beat down on somebody. You don't want to go in, you punched me, so now I'm going to demolish you, because even though it's the right thing to do, that's going to put a bad mark on your name as an athlete.
Well, it just depends too. Like, even though it's a bad name, look at guys like Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather. Like, they kind of like use that negativity to make money.
They do.
You know what I mean?
At the same time, that's why I don't like those fighters.
Okay.
So I think they're more of any spotlight is good spotlight.
Interesting.
I don't feel that way. I don't know. I like good publicity, not bad publicity.
I respect that. I like Floyd. Floyd's my favorite boxer.
Oh, they're great fighters. They're great fighters. There's no denying that.
But I do recognize what you're saying, because I was talking to my boy Adrian Soto Perez.
Yeah.
And I just noticed how, like, especially in the local mixed martial arts community, especially in the Spartacus Fight League,
Right.
I noticed how, like, respectful some of the fighters were. Like, why is it? It's funny, because it's like some people from the outside looking in, it's like, oh yeah, I'm a fighter, I'm a kick ass or whatever. But it's like there's a certain level of peace, of posture that you guys carry. Where does that come from?
I think in part, to each other, it's because we've shared the ring. Even if it wasn't with each other, we all know what that's like. We know how it feels. We know how it feels to be hit in the face with those little gloves. We know the feeling of victory, the feeling of loss. And we all share those experiences, and I think that's why we respect each other more. But I think largely it comes from confidence in knowing that if the situation arises, you can do something, but, you're also hoping that it doesn't arise.
I got you. So I'm always going to ask this question. It's going to be mixed martial arts versus boxing. Do you enjoy boxing?
I do enjoy boxing.
Okay. So I always ask, if you were to pick a sport, obviously you pick mixed martial arts. But why is mixed martial arts, from your perspective, better, or is boxing equal?
So I've actually thought a lot about this question. I think they're equal.
Okay.
Personally, I chose mixed martial arts because it's more. You get to do a wider range of things. But, I thought of an analogy. It's like tools.
Okay.
Boxing, you sharpen one or two tools, whereas mixed martial arts, you got 5, 6, 7 tools on the table that you have to take care of. The 5, 6, 7 tools aren't going to be taken care of as much. You can sharpen them, take care of them, they can be clean, but the person with only 2, they're going to take way better care of them because they only have 2.
Right.
So, same thing with boxing versus MMA. A boxer, a lot goes into boxing. I'm not saying that it doesn't, because, I go to a boxing gym in Danville, Lux boxing gym, and he'll pin me up against a boxer, and it's a whole new world. There's so much that goes into it. But at the same time, you just sharpen boxing.
Right.
Whereas MMA, you have to sharpen boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu. There's so much that goes into it.
Right.
So like I said, personally, I chose MMA because there's more of a variety of things. I like kicking.
Yeah,
That's pretty fun. I love groundwork.
Right.
It's at times peaceful as well. I like that about it. But yeah, I think they're about equal in terms of the sport.
I feel you. I feel like the history of boxing. I love boxing. I grew up a boxing fan. One of the things I noticed about boxing is just for me the concentration of it. Like they're like weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Pinpointed.
It's like a licensed weapon that your fists are. So it's like as a mixed martial arts, is there anything like licensed? Like your Muay Thai, your different things. Are you like a licensed weapon?
I think that depends on the fighter.
Okay.
You know, we were talking earlier about Shevchenko.
Mm-hmm.
Muay Thai's her thing. Punches and kicks. I think more so kicks. Or Holly Holm. She's a kickboxer.
Yeah. She was a boxing champion too, wasn't she?
I think she was.
Yes.
But I think she's more known for that kickboxing, especially after she came up, fought Ronda Rousey, and knocked her out.
Bro.
That shocked everybody. But she's known for those kicks. So I think it really depends on the fighter, and that's why I like to train everything, because I don't want to become known for one thing.
Okay.
I don't, if you're known for groundwork, then be like, all right, take down defense, stand up. That's what we're going to work. Work some ground so you know what to defend, but we're going to work on his weaknesses. Same thing with stand up, take it to the ground. So I like to work a little mix of things, just to keep them guessing. I think so far I've presented myself as more of a ground fighter.
Okay.
But that's just because the situation arises. Like we talked earlier about adapting. I've had plans to stand up for fights, but takedown showed an opportunity, so I was like, okay, why not?
So would you rather take someone down or just straight up knock them out in a fight?
I like both, honestly.
Okay.
I love both. You take them down. Punches still happen on the ground, but a lot less frequently, whereas standing up, you're focused on punching and kicking each other, face, body, elbowing, knees. I personally haven't gotten a knockout yet.
Oh, wow.
But, the goal's there. I've been working on that, trying to increase my power. That's my lifting plan is specifically to build power, not to build that much mass, but to build power in punches and kicks.
I got you. So, okay, we were talking about Holly Holmes and Ronda Rousey. Who are if you had to make a list of like your top 3 unbelievable matches that you've ever seen, or like you thought a fighter was going to win but they lost, what were your top 3 like, oh my gosh, fights that you've seen personally?
So the first one, I was actually thinking about this one the other day. The first one isn't in the UFC. Preston Hawker, the Pastor of Disaster.
Oh, wow.
I forget who he was fighting, but the odds look stacked against the other guy. Yeah, I'd never met him at the time. This is my first time meeting him, and I was like, oh, this should be a good fight. But the odds look stacked against him.
Wow.
And first round was about even. Second round, he came out and won it with a choke. You would have never expected him to have that behind him, but he's a really good fighter. And knowing that now, you see, like, you're able to compare a little better. Who's my other ones? Yeah, the Holly Holm and Ronda Rousey. No one expected that.
No one did. I didn't.
Let's see, Chris Cyborg, Amanda Nunes. We talked about that earlier.
Yes.
I think this one wasn't really a surprising outcome. I forget who he fought, but a while back, do you remember the fight, Robbie Lawler? He got his lip busted like here, and it was like split.
What? Oh, okay.
I forget who he fought, but it was a 5-round brawl. The name escapes me at the moment. I can't think of it, but it was wild. Like, it was intense.
I feel you. Well, the one thing I respect about like UFC and mixed martial arts is like the diversity of it.
Yeah.
So you have the peaceful, calm, good-natured people. Then you have like the people who are like brass. But like you also have like the people who are like chill. They smoke weed. They do whatever.
Yeah.
Like Nick Diaz and I heard Nate Diaz. I think is training for a fight.
Is he?
He is. I think he's training for a fight. It's been a long time coming.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? And I remember watching some of those Nate Diaz fights on YouTube, and I tell you, the Stockton slap.
It's so disrespectful. It's so disrespectful.
Okay, what would you do if somebody did a Stockton slap?
I'll walk out the cage.
You walk out the cage.
You can't fight anymore. Someone slaps you in the face mid-fight. You cannot fight anymore. You got to relinquish any titles you have and walk out.
Okay.
I mean, That's how you'd feel anyways. I'd feel terrible if someone slapped me. If you win the fight, you did win the fight.
Wow, that's crazy.
I mean, it's mentally. If I walked out of that cage with a win, but knowing that my opponent slapped me in the face instead of punching me, I'd be disappointed that night.
Really?
I'd be sad. I'd be in the shower, like, curled up, and I'd be like, man, he really slapped me.
What if you knocked him out, though? Would you still feel that way?
I think so.
Interesting.
Like, I mean, respect to him for doing it. Like, I could never. I couldn't muster up the strength. And to those who have been slapped, you know, you're still great fighters.
Yeah.
But me personally, if I was in a fight where, you know, serious injuries could be had, you know, broken bones, knocked out, concussions, and someone slapped me in the face,
yeah,
I'd feel like less of a man.
That's interesting. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. So, I want to continue on the conversation with boxing and mixed martial arts.
Right.
So, in boxing, you see a lot of athletes in boxing. They have brain trauma. They don't operate the same. In mixed martial arts, you still haven't seen the same amount of body injury. But even though UFC mixed martial arts is a new sport, do you feel like there will be in the future you'll see more mixed martial arts who are potentially damaged or hurt? And how do you plan on that, injuries and stuff like that?
I think it's always going to be relevant to the sport, whether it's boxing, any combat sport, really. You know, they just introduced bare knuckle boxing, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it's always going to be relevant to any combat sport. You know, it's just a risk you have to take. If you're truly in love with the sport, you have to know that that's a possibility. And, you know, you think that over. You never go into a fight thinking, I'm going to come out of this safe. You know, before every fight, I always pray for safety, not just for me, but, you know, for everyone fighting that night. Just, you know, you want to come out safe, but you never know that that's going to happen. I think the refs right now are taking good precaution in stopping fights. You know, people say, they stopped it too early. It's rare that they stop it too early, unless one punch is thrown and they stop it.
Okay.
Most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, the refs know what they're doing. You know, they see, you know, say it's 5 punches. I mean, normally that's too short. But if they're 5 haymakers to the face and you're not defending, why risk a 6th one?
That's interesting.
You know, and from a fighter's standpoint, you know, I wouldn't want it to be stopped if I was in that situation. Yeah. But looking from the outside, just seeing, you know, you can see in a fight, but you watch the video and you truly see, you know, what happened, why they stopped it. There's some fights, if you lose by a decision, you're like, you know, I won that, but you go back and watch the video and it's, no.
So I have 2 examples of that. So the first one is Deante Wilder. So Deante Wilder, he faced Tyson Fury, and his trainer threw in the towel.
Right.
Okay, Deante was furious. He basically fired the guy.
Yeah.
He fired him, and he was actually a great fighter himself. He was a good fighter himself. Back in the 80s, he was pretty good. He was fired for that because he was like, look, I put my life on the line for this. You're not going to make that decision for me.
Yeah.
And then there was another situation where a ref, this was the Henry Cejudo versus Dominic Cruz fight.
Yeah.
Did you see that fight?
I didn't see it, but I heard a lot about it.
So in that fight, it was really interesting because Cejudo had a few of those licks that you were talking about, unanswered punches, several of them. But Dominic Cruz felt like they should have kept the fight going.
Right.
So my question to you is, how much responsibility goes into the fighter, the ref, but also the trainer as well, into saying, hey, look, maybe I should stop this fight.
Right.
Maybe I know him. We need to keep it going. Like if you're a trainer or if you're a fighter, depending on certain situations, how would you handle that? What do you think?
Honestly, it just depends on how severe it is. So myself, in a fighter's perspective, it's my responsibility to protect myself at all times. The ref will tell you before the fight, protect yourself at all times. So if you hit the ground and you've got 5, 6, 7 unanswered punches, that's on you. You know, it sucks to say, but it's on you. You need to protect yourself, and sometimes you can't, which is why the ref is there. The refs, a lot of responsibility falls on them. You know, I'm not a fight ref, but I ref for U.S. grappling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's not as severe, but you always have to be watching. You always have to be, this submission could break their arm. I got to watch their hands to see if they're tapping. Just stuff like that, especially, I haven't, I'm not reffing the kids at U.S. Grappling yet, but with adults and stuff too, the responsibility falls on them, but at the same time, I need to watch and be sure that they are tapping, The same thing with fighting, with corners and, coaches and stuff, a little bit of responsibility falls on them as well, I would ask the fighter, but if it's too severe, it's just they've been getting beat for 2 rounds. It's a miracle they're still even up. They haven't landed a punch. Maybe then be like, maybe I should call this. You're delirious right now. You've taken too many shots to the head. Maybe I should call this.
You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to go back to movies with this. This kind of reminds me of Rocky IV, the opening scene. When Apollo Creed had you know what I mean? Where he had to face, I forgot the brother's name. They just had a movie.
Ivan
Drago. Yeah, Ivan Drago.
My dad's a big Rocky fan, so
and so it was like he was like throw it. He was like throw a towel, and he was like no. But before that, he was like, I'm gonna keep fighting.
Yeah.
He was getting lit. So I just you're right. I think the responsibility goes to the trainers.
Right.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day. Yeah, he's put he or she has put their life in the line really for this. I mean, when you get in the ring, anything can happen.
Right,
There are
know.
deaths that happen. There was like 2 or 3 boxers that died in the ring.
Yeah.
There was Conor McGregor's friend that passed away in the ring.
Yeah.
But I just think, hey, look, even though you as an athlete, you as a fighter, you put yourself in that situation. Your trainer knows you. They know your body. They know when you've had enough.
Yeah.
And I feel like as a trainer, you gotta look and be like, you know what? We gotta wait for another day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's longevity. It's not only about how long you can fight for the next fight, but it also is make sure you can go home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I definitely agree with you. It's the responsibility of everyone, the fighter, the trainer, and the ref, because everybody needs to go home.
Yeah, everybody holds a share of responsibility. I mean, whether the fight's stopped by the trainer or the ref, the fighter's going to be bitter at first. But, unless you're just not a good person, you eventually learn to be like, okay, that's why this fight was stopped. I need to fix this, try again another day.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say this. I don't want the fighter to just quit and say no mas.
No.
I think what the fighter should do is maybe give out hints to the trainer and be like, I can't see in one eye.
Yeah.
Or I can't, you know what I mean? That way the trainer can know what's going on.
Right.
Because if especially in boxing, I want your perspective on this. In boxing, if you get one loss, you're negotiating contract. You can get a hit. You can lose money. As a professional mixed martial arts fighter, is that the same thing that happens in MMA? Like how is it like with wins and losses?
So I've only had the one professional fight, so I haven't had a lot of experience with that. And I guess it would really depend on who you're signing the contract with. I feel like a lot of promotions run it differently. You're going to get a different cut for showing up to weigh-ins. You're going to get a different cut for fighting, and then you get your winner's bonus, just stuff like that. And the portion of ticket sales. So that all goes into it. But I feel like, I guess it really just kind of depends on the promotion. Yeah.
I got you. My last question to you is, man, what kind of advice would you give to an amateur fighter who wants to sign to a management team or promotion? What's the best way he or she should handle that, especially if they have years of experience in fighting? What kind of advice would you give as a professional?
I'd say definitely be cautious. Like, do your research, essentially. I currently don't have a management team. But I went pro, but I knew who I was going pro with. They're actually the same show I started on originally. So I knew they were legit. I knew I was going to have a legitimate opponent. I knew that they were going to show. I knew that, you see some shows, especially as an amateur. I knew with one show they'd have 22 fights lined up, and then...
What?
Well, yeah, then within, the week, it was like, oh, yeah, we're down to 16.
Wow.
So I knew there wasn't going to be any of that within this show. They're legit. I fought for them 4 times as an amateur, and each time my opponent showed up. Everything was run super professionally and smooth. It's Fight Night Challenge.
Okay.
But definitely do your research. See who you're signing with. See what the deal is. Read your contract. Don't just sign because you're too eager to become pro. Just definitely sign. If someone offered you a professional opportunity, there's bound to be another one.
Wow.
You're obviously at that level. You just have to expand yourself, go out a little bit, and explore. Don't rush things. Take your time with it, because once you make that step, there's no going back.
Well, thank you very much, Tommy, for joining the Sports Cycle.
Thank
we
you.
Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate y'all having me.
You listen to 105.1 Live. This is the Sports Cycle.